although Maharaj doesn't require an introduction, but His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj is a senior most disciple of His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarin Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He has been serving Srila Prabhupada and his instructions from many years. Especially he has received the instruction of translating and giving purports of many acharyas books which are available only in Sanskrit, but because of Maharaj's contribution we have now access to it in English language. And Maharaj is the GBC of the South India, many places, and keeps traveling and enthuse the devotees many places in India and abroad. So let us welcome His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj to our ISKCON South Bangalore ISKCON Cultural Center by once chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvishesha Adharshi Vasti Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we'll talk a little bit about sound, because as we know, the Yuga Dharma is Nam Sankirtan, which is sound. Veda has a conception of sound, and modern science has a conception of sound. Plus, we have material sound and we have spiritual sound. So we have all sorts of concepts of sound. In any case, Srila Prabhupada talks of sound being a vibration, which means that there is a little frequency going on, so many vibrations per second, which we call hertz. That's a modern term, of course. But if we look at the whole material world, everything is vibrating. Everything has a movement. And that movement is quite regular. So we have atoms and electrons and protons and neutrons, and they make, in the atoms we have these things all moving, and they move at certain rates, which are very specific for each particular type of molecule. If we combine the molecules of atoms together, we get molecules. So atoms are bonded together in certain ways, and this of course takes energy to do that. And there's also a vibration that holds them in their proper place. So therefore the molecules have a certain type of vibration according to the type of molecule. And of course we have trillions and trillions of combinations of molecules in this material world. Very difficult to count them, but they all got their specific vibrational rates. If we take all of this together, we take all of these molecules together, as far as human body is concerned, then we get organs of the body. Organs of the body, will also vibrate at a particular rate. So, of course, this is a modern discovery, and some persons at the beginning of the 20th century have investigated this, and they developed a type of medicine based on vibration, not upon the modern concept of, organs and x-rays and operations and antibiotics and things like this, but based upon vibrations. So we detect the natural vibration of an organ of the body. And then we see if the organ is vibrating at that rate. And if it's not vibrating at that rate, it's not proper. Something is wrong. So the whole cure is to get it vibrating at the proper rate. Then the organ's back to normal. So this is the type of cure, which is a little bit subtle. So there's a whole type of medicine that has evolved based on that called biofeedback, things like that. And it's advanced quite
Earth also has vibrations. So there is one frequency called the Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz. This is the natural vibration of the Earth. It's scientifically measurable. It's caused by ionosphere or whatever, like this. So that's the natural vibration of the Earth, which in the modern world many people really don't think about. But we often hear of ancient civilizations, including India. They were very sensitive to the Earth and the places on it. So they often selected some places as very, very good and spiritual, good for meditation, etc. That's because it has the natural vibration intact. And when you go there, your brain kind of falls into that natural
vibration also, which is coincidentally also 7.83 hertz is also the alpha wave state of your brain, which is your rest state and your meditation state. So therefore, when you go to a holy place and it's vibrating at that rate, it's very easy to meditate and become peaceful and spiritual. So all around the world in ancient times, they were very sensitive to the vibrations of the earth, and they selected certain spots in Europe and Asia and America and South America and India, which were very conducive because they had this natural vibration to them. So that's why they built their ancient temples around the world on these very specific sites. Another type of vibration is musical vibration. So that's based on frequency also. And the notes of the scale are mathematically related to each other. And if you don't have the right frequency, you're not a good singer. So some people can sing in tune, so they've got their frequencies matched properly. Some people cannot sing in tune. That means the frequencies of some notes are off, and so it sounds a little strange. So, music, of course, is highly developed in modern world, but it's common in all civilizations, ancient civilizations as well. They had music of some sort. So it's very common within human society to develop the natural scales, etc. Interestingly enough, they've also correlated these vibrations, so the vibrations are there, just as we have Schumann resonance with the earth and your alpha state in your brain. So we also have the notes of the scale, and they also correspond to the chakras of your body. So you have the 7 main chakras. They are also, chakra means moving, so they spin at a certain rate, certain vibrational rate. And certain notes correspond to those vibrations. So different notes will stimulate different chakras and get it vibrating at the proper rate. And of course, if the chakra is not vibrating at the proper rate, that means something is wrong with the chakra, and consequently something is wrong with that part of the body. As I said, the vibration of your different organs may be out of sync or in sync or whatever. So if your chakras are out of sync, that means certain organs in your body in that area are also out of sync. So using the tones of the scale, then you can get your chakras back in order, and consequently your organs in your body. So this is what we call medicine through sound, using the notes of the scale to help cure your body. Okay? When we put the notes of the scale together in pleasing manners, it becomes music. And most civilizations have some sort of music, and some civilizations have highly developed music. And it's very attractive to the human being. But they've also found that music, not just sound or notes, but music has effect on plants. So if we give nice classical music or ragas, and the plants hear that, even though they don't have ears, they don't have nervous systems, they don't have brains, somehow they like certain types of music, and they'll grow very nicely. Other types of music, very loud music, very dissonant music, they don't like grow. So plants are very sensitive to the type of music that comes out of what human beings play. Of course, that means that if plants are sensitive to music, animals must also be sensitive. So they've done experiments with little mice like this, and they've also discovered that mice also respond differently to different types of music. So if you take the nice classical music, the mice heal quicker because of that nice music. If we put the other type of music, the loud music or the dissonant music or the rock music, they don't like it. And they don't cure fast. So in other words, the body of the animals also responds differently to different types of music. Not only that, they also found that the mice and the rats' IQ increased if you had the classical music, and it decreased if you had the heavy rock music. Huh? So, very interesting. And in fact, they had an experiment with some mice, and they had this heavy drumming going on for 2 weeks. And the mice, after that point, went crazy, and they started eating each other up. So that was the effect of that loud, heavy music on mice, what to speak of human beings. Yeah. So, of course, they've done experiments with human beings, and just as predictable, the soft, relaxing classical music was very good, and people would cure nicely with that. On the other hand, if you put that other music on, it did the opposite. And the reason they found was that this heavy music increases cortisol in your body. Cortisol, of course, has some benefits. It's useful in stress situations. If there's sudden fright, your cortisol increases like that. So, that of course is useful because this heavy rhythmic music.
There is a vehicle to KA03NH2319 which is causing serious disturbance on the road. So kindly park it. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So this heavy music can increase the cortisol. So they found that out in ancient times, and we find that in ancient times they would have armies, and the armies would have marching bands with heavy rhythm. Bang, bang, bang. And this would excite the soldiers. So when they're excited, they can fight better, or they can march better. And that's also there in the modern world. You'll find at sporting events, they'll have these loud rhythmic music there also, bands. Armies, I think Indian also has, Indian Army has their marching bands, etc. All countries will have marching bands. And that's actually increases your cortisol that makes you good for fighting. That's why they have the band. But, as I said, it's good in that way, but long term, the cortisol starts to destroy the cells of the body. So it's not good for your health. Not good for your mind, ultimately. So very bad, ultimately. So sound, and particularly music, has a powerful effect on the human being. So they've also experimented in different governments using sound as a weapon. So using sound, some sounds, they can make people get sick. They can make them collapse, get paralyzed, etc. Get dizzy. So modern governments have developed sound weapons even. So sound is very, very powerful. It can be very productive for us, or it can also be very destructive. This, of course, is related to the gunas. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks of sattva, raja, and tamaguna. And everything in the world can be classed in terms of gunas. So sattva guna is the positive guna. This is the one which repairs the body and maintains the body in a healthy state, or the mind in a healthy state. Rajas is very stimulating, and tamas is very destructive. So everything in the world, like food, or music, or whatever, can be classified in terms of gunas. So we have sattvic food, which is healthy for the body. We have rajasic food, which is stimulating, maybe very tasty. In the long run, it will be destructive. We have tamasic food, which from the beginning is very destructive. Not good for the body at all. And the same with the music. The sattvic music will create peace, will help restore the body. The rajasic will stimulate the body, but ultimately will destroy. And tamasic will be completely destructive from beginning to end. So, if we are intelligent, then we will choose those things in the world, including our food and our music, which will keep the body in a healthy state. And we'll reject those things which will cause destruction. In other words, we'll choose sattvic over tamasic. Sound also has a form. Usually we think of sound as something in the ear. That's something like that. It's not a form, but because form is with the sight. But actually, there's an instrument called the cymatic instrument. And it's simply a plate which vibrates according to the note of the scale that you play. And on top of that plate, we see there is some sand. So we spread out the sand, you play the note, and then it vibrates at that note, and then it will go into a different pattern. So the different notes of the scale have different patterns to go with them. So each note of the scale has a particular form. Not just a sound, it has a form. This, of course, is a 2D form for us. It's probably 3D, but we can't capture that. So, but nevertheless, we see that each individual note also has a particular form to go with it. So sound is a little more complex than we think it is. It's not just something that goes in your eardrum. It's got its particular form also, each note of the scale. Like that. Okay. We are familiar with mantra. So mantra means sound, certain words which are very powerful, and they have particular effects on us, spiritual or material. The mantra can be put in a visual form. That's called a yantra. So we have many yantras in India. We have them like a Krishna mantra, so there'll be a yantra to go with that. Or we have a Narayan mantra, so we have a Narayan yantra also. So you can chant the mantra or you can worship the yantra, the 2D form. So the yantra is a visual representation of sound. In other words, it's giving the form of the sound. So we have, of course, many, many different types of yantras. But we will see that also these yantras have certain things in common. One, they're very symmetrical, usually geometrical. They'll have squares, and they'll have circles, and they often have lotuses in them. So in other words, they also represent the symmetry of the universe. Everything in the universe is not simply chaotic. It works in certain patterns, which we don't know fully, but we can see that there are mathematical patterns that reoccur in all aspects of nature, such as this. And we'll see the same proportions in a seashell and a galaxy. How is it possible? But it's there. So the whole universe is held together on certain geometrical or mathematical principles, which are very symmetrical. And that's represented in the different yantras. If you learn music, Indian music, they have ragas, which are a selection of notes, 5, 6, or 7 notes. And then you take those notes and you arrange them in certain ways, and that makes the music of the raga. So each raga has a particular form to go with it. There's a little Sanskrit verse for each raga, and it will describe the form of the raga, which is a person. Maybe a woman, maybe a man, maybe 2-arm, 4-arm, 6-arm, 8 arms, maybe black, maybe white, maybe gold, maybe red, whatever, different colors, and doing different things. And so when you learn the raga, you have to learn that verse. That is the form of the raga. So if you sing or you play that raga nicely, you can invoke that form. You can make the form appear. So that's the idea. So you learn and you meditate on that particular form of the raga when you're singing or playing it, and then that will manifest the form of the raga. So in other words, the raga has a particular form. Okay, so another aspect of sound is words, or sabda. So sabda, or word, is very important because this is something very common among human beings and not so common among animals. The chimpanzee, for instance, maybe can learn up to 20 words in his whole life. But human beings can learn thousands and thousands and thousands of words and put them together in very complicated patterns. So this gives rise, word gives rise to all sorts of knowledge available to the human being. Scientific knowledge, artistic knowledge, so many different branches of knowledge, not available to animals. So the word is very important. So in modern science, of course, word is just another type of sound with a particular meaning attached to it, and it vibrates in the airwaves and goes in your ear and then vibrates your eardrum. And then that goes, sends a signal to your brain, and then you recognize a certain word. And then you combine the words together and you get sentences. With sentences you get paragraphs, etc., and then you get knowledge. So it is somewhat of a mechanical process. But according to the Vedic literature, sound is quite different. It's not just a vibration going through the air. Sound is, it's related to an element. And the element is not air, it's akash. So we have 5 elements. The most subtle is akash, which sometimes we could translate as space, but it's not quite space because it's something in the space. So if you study modern science or cosmology, they understand that, or they think that space is a big vacuum of sorts, but it cannot be so because things travel through it. Different waves travel through that vacuum, but nothing can travel through a vacuum. So there must be something out there in space, but what is it? It's not a material element, it's not air, it's not molecules, it's something else. So some modern scientists also say, okay, there's akash, it's something we don't know about. It's a medium by which waves can go, but it's not air, it's not water, it's not anything like that. So there's modern idea about akash also. So anyway, according to the Vedas, akash is the medium for sound. And sound is not just any sound. Sound has something which has meaning for us. And that goes through the akash. So we have a different concept of sound. This is explained in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sound is that which conveys the idea of an object, indicates the presence of a speaker screened from our view, and constitutes a subtle form of ether. Ether means akash. So it is a little bit different from our modern concept of sound simply being vibrating air molecules. It's quite different. And of course, the sound is emphasized in the Vedas because it has its spiritual aspect. Sabda refers not only to word and sound, it also refers to the Veda. Absolute proof is called sabda. And of course the Vedas emanate from the breathing of the Supreme Lord. So it's got a spiritual origin, the Vedas. So that sound of the Vedas is a spiritual sound, non-different from Supreme Lord. And thus, the Vedas and the mantras of the Vedas and the word Om, which is the seed of all the Vedas, is glorified as spiritual sound. It's not just sound, it is spiritual sound. And non-different from Vishnu himself. And it's through that one syllable Om that all of the Vedas expand. Yeah. So anyway, we have creation of the universe also depends on sound. We see that Mahavishnu glances over Prakriti, and then he creates universes. He expands in the universe as Vishnu. Vishnu creates Brahma. Brahma creates the material world. But he doesn't know how to create the material world. So therefore, Brahma meditates. And then what happens? He hears sound. He hears the Gayatri mantra from Krishna's flute. Goes in his ear, comes out his mouth, and then he gets knowledge, how to create the universe. So in other words, sound is inherent in the creation of the universe and all of the planets and the bodies of living entities. And it comes from Brahma, but ultimately comes from Krishna. Even according to modern science, sound is inherent in the beginning of the universe. Of course, in modern theory, they have the Big Bang, a big explosion of stuff. And when that Big Bang occurs, matter collapses around seeds of dense darkness, and then outward pressure from photon causes the collapsed matter to rebound, creating echoes or sound throughout the universe. So sound is inherent even in modern cosmological creation or whatever like that. Anyway, we're not so much interested in material sound waves, we're interested in spiritual sound waves, which is the mantra. So mantra, of course, mantra comes from man and tra. Man means manas, manas means mind. Tra means triate, to deliver. So mantra is a particular type of sound which delivers the mind from material existence. How can a material sound take you out of the material world? It cannot. Material things will only leave us in a material position. So the mantra is not material, it is spiritual. That's what makes it different from normal sound and material sound and material knowledge.